Down. So welcome to this Healing Our Future event. For those of you that don't know, my name is Deborah Whitman, and I am a member of the CSL community here. And if you're joining for the first time, we do these events in the evening 4 times each year. 3 times each year. I've got to watch Debbie so she can correct me. We do them 3 times each year for the evening time, and then we also have what we call sack lunches that we do in different churches throughout the valley. Also, a few housekeeping rules. You would think I would know these things. I come here all the time. The restrooms for the women is out the sanctuary doors to the left of the hall. For the men, out the right doors to the right of the hall. And if you haven't yet, would you please silence your cell phones? And the purpose of this is to bring people together from different faith communities to meet each other, to learn about the different faiths, and to really learn what we have in common, which is more than you realize. We have a lot in common with each other. Tonight we're going to be talking about diversity in our faith communities. After the opening candle lighting, we will have 1 minute of silence. Then the first speaker will come up. Pardon me? Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me back up. You're going to hear a little gong, a little singing bowl in between every piece of this event, like after the candle lighting, in between each speaker, and that will signal the next person coming up. And of course, we're silent during that time. After the program, there will be refreshments over here on this side. We will have a sign-up sheet in the back for you to sign up if you want to get the emails about when these events are happening. And photos will be taken during the event. Is there anyone in here that doesn't want their photos taken? All right. Debbie will be taking them. So, all right. I think we're going to go ahead and begin our candle lighting ceremony.
The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all.
Shalom Aleichem.
Good evening and blessings to everyone.
Allahu Akbar. Welcome, everybody, and I thank you so much for welcoming myself into your community.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim translates to, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Debbie, for putting me first. I think the trick is you can walk away when you are the first, after you're done. Just kidding. My name is Reshma Kamal, and I'm from the Islamic Center of Boise. I have written 2 beautiful verses from my faith book, and I hope that finds a connection with all of us today in the message that we have, that how much common we have with each other. If only we would think and reflect with the message that comes from God, who have created all of us. The first verse is chapter 2 and verse 138. And it says, "This is the color of God. And who is better than God in coloring? And we are worshipers of him." And the second verse is chapter 49, verse 13. And it says, "O humanity, we created you from a single pair and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another." These verses, as I was reading last night, reminds us of the wisdom that God has given in the books that he has sent to nations and tribes all over the world. We see it in our limited knowledge, but these beautiful verses tell us that there's a reason we are different from each other. There's a reason we speak different languages, we look different. We have different faith values. And there's wisdom in all those verses, not just in the books that my faith values comes from, but in the faith values and in the books that you believe in. I just attended an event today at Boise State University, and it's called the Living Library. And what happens there is you personify a book yourself. And I call the title of my book, Walking the Path of Cultural Humility. And today my message is walking the path of cultural humility through our faith values and through the values that we believe so much in. But sometimes when we believe in things that we grow up, we tend to forget that those are similar values that other faiths also have. And the moment we think ourselves as different, I think that's the time we forget to see the meaning of those verses. I think the beauty of humankind is in knowing and in learning who we are, in getting out of that comfort zone that sometimes we tend to block ourselves into. I grew up in India, and I was very comfortable going to a church because that was my school. I went to a Protestant school. I went to a Catholic college run by Irish nuns. And those experiences taught me that when you open yourself to something that is unfamiliar, to messages that doesn't or it might not come from your own faith books, but it sounds so familiar that you hear in churches and in mosques and other synagogues and other worship places. They are all same. I also see that this is a challenge that we have within our faith communities, to see that and to spread that message out. It is more challenging when we look at our own congregation and we look at the diversity within our own congregation and culture. By a person of Muslim in faith, I go to Islamic Center of Boise, which is 99.9% almost people from resettled background. And you have people from all over the world speaking different languages. The only thing that unites us, not because we are of the same faith value, but we are human beings. And my experience, the way I grew up, the way my parents brought up, makes me who I am. And it's never too late to see the beauty in the verses that I just read, how it brings us together. And I hope to learn from today's speakers, verses from your faith values that speaks of the same meaning and what God tells us to do when you look at your own neighbors. It doesn't tell us to see if your neighbor is of your same faith. And in our faith values, it says that if your neighbor is hungry, 7 houses down the lane, you're responsible for that. So I hope to learn today, and I hope you would love the message and the verses that I shared today. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chi Ishinam Weston. I am with Beginner's Mind Sangha. We're a Zen Buddhist group that meets in the Boise Buddhist Center on the corner of 15th and Fort, I believe. We're a Sangha that's been in this tradition, the Plum Village tradition with Thich Nhat Hanh. Our Sangha was started in 1994, and so it's one of the older Sanghas in the United States in the Plum Village tradition. And I was told that we're talking about diversity tonight. And Thich Nhat Hanh started the Order of Interbeing back in the late 50s and early 60s in Vietnam. Excuse me. And it was based on diversity. And diversity at the time was gender equality. Old school Zen Buddhism, there's a huge separation between monks and nuns, men and women. And he thought Buddhism needed to be updated, that it was way too old-fashioned. And so he started the Order of Interbeing. And with that, he started with 3 ladies and 3 men. And the Order of Interbeing means we're a part of everything. and we're all a part of each other. So when Thich Nhat Hanh first opened his monastery in France, he got exiled from Vietnam because he did not support the government at the time, and he did not support the communists, the northern Vietnamese either. He supported the people, and he thought everybody just quit shooting, and that's what he worked for. Well, they didn't like that, and so he was in exile. So when he started his monastery, he waited until he had the same amount of monks and nuns willing to be ordained and to begin the monastery, so that they were equality within the sexes, equality within the gifts that people have to bring. And so that carried through. When he went back to Vietnam, for 10 years he refused to go back until he was allowed to go on his own terms, because they set the terms, told him what he could do, how he could do it. Buddhism is very ceremonial. And in the old world Buddhism, the monks are always in front and always run all the ceremonies, and the nuns are always in the back, and they just take care of whatever needs to be taken care of that the monks don't want to do. So that's how they wanted Thich Nhat Hanh to come back to Vietnam. And he said no. And it took 10 years before they agreed to let him into the country on his terms. And the first time they went into the temple, and it was his home temple where he spent his first 40 years. I'm getting emotional. It was a procession of the monks on one side, the nuns on the other. They went in together. And that was unheard of at the time. Now within, and it still is now over there, but that's how it's done here. So within the monastery, they still keep the men and women separate because it's a monastery, it's celibacy. And so the women will sit on one side and the men will sit on the other. Well, here in town, Beginner's Mind Sangha, when we would have high ceremonies, we would have monks or nuns or teachers who have been in the monasteries come, and then we would do ceremony. And the men would sit on one side, the women would sit on the other. Until one day, we were the first one in the United States. We said, now, why are we separating the men and the women? We're not monastic. We're not celibate. We like each other. There's no point. So we didn't do it. People were allowed to sit wherever they wanted. And so the teacher comes in and looks around, talks to the head of the zendo. What's going on? And he was told, this is how we do it. Men and women are not separate, even by that line. We're in it together. Within our branch of Buddhism, to become a full member, we have to do what we call the 5 mindfulness trainings, which in the old school, they call them the precepts, that you would have to make these 5 vows. The original precepts were 1 line. And our mindfulness trainings are giant paragraphs with a lot of words, huge amounts of commas. Now, when I first read them, I thought the world would run out of commas. They needed to use more periods, make a declarative sentence. Come on, guys. I'm sorry. And so anyway, they're very simple. It's like, do not kill anyone. Don't lie. Don't steal. Don't be sexually inappropriate. Let your speech be constructive. Those were the precepts. Well, Thich Nhat Hanh said, we need to have precepts that address what's going on in our culture and our societies today. And so these are rewritten every 10 years. And that process is a very long process. It's a committee. That's why we have so many commas. But on these precepts that just came out a few years ago, and it's under true love, and it starts, aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I am committed to cultivating responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety, integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. That was one line. Now, it goes on for another paragraph, but it ends in this way that I wanted to share. Recognizing the diversity of human experience, I am committed not to discriminate against any form of gender identity or sexual orientation. And so we have that written. So to become a full member, that's part of what we promise to do. And so it's part of our practice. And we call these trainings because they're rather deep, dense, and we promise to spend our life developing these things to the best of our abilities. And so that's what we got in the way of diversity. Thank you.
Greetings. Can you hear me? Greetings, everybody. My name is Joe Kalman. I'm a Baha'i, and I'm here to give the Baha'i perspective on diversity. So we were first asked, in regards to diversity, to consider these two questions. What do you do to promote diversity in your faith community? And the second question is, what impact have you observed from your efforts? And then we're given the freedom to either comment on these or whatever else we felt like. I'd like to add an initial question that would precede these two questions, and that is, why diversity? What's the significance in it? What's the importance in it? So, first off, if we could look at the evolution of mankind, and had its beginnings in the birth of a family, it then moved and developed into tribal solidarities, then leading in turn to the constitution of the city-state, and then evolving into the institution of independent and sovereign nations. The next stage in this evolution is to become a global community. If we look at the transition of these various states, we will see that there was a lot of strife, warring, subjugation to bring about these advancements. At this stage in our evolution, we cannot achieve a global oneness through these old and outdated methods. We currently see a continuation of warring, subjugation, and oppression that serve only to divide us, not to unite us. We must come to an understanding and appreciation of the capacities of all of mankind to contribute to our advancement. So the central theme in the Baha'i faith is a oneness of mankind, of which unity in diversity is the primary mover, and not unity in uniformity. So from the writings, there's a teaching from Abdu'l-Baha, who is the son of Baha'u'llah and the expounder of his faith. And he says, consider the flowers of a garden. Though differing in kind, color, form, and shape, yet inasmuch as they are refreshed by the waters of one spring, revived by the breath of one wind, invigorated by the rays of one sun, this diversity increaseth their charm and adds unto their beauty. Thus, when on unifying force, this penetrating influence of the Word of God taketh effect, the difference of customs, manners, habits, ideas, options, and dispositions embellish the world of humanity. Diversity of hues, form, and shape enricheth and adorneth the garden, and heighteneth the effect thereof in like manner. When diverse shades of thought, temperament, and character are brought together under the power and influence of one central agency, the beauty and glory of human perfection will be revealed and made manifest. Naught but the celestial potency of the Word of God, which ruleth and transcendeth the realities of all things, is capable of harmonizing the divergent thoughts, sentiments, ideas, and convictions of the children of men. Verily, it is penetrating power. It is the penetrating power in all things, the mover of souls and the binder and regulator in the world of humanity. So, diversity is a diversity in all things, not just what we may come immediately to mind, such as racial differences, skin colors, but also considering socioeconomic, educational, occupational, cultural, and religious backgrounds. Abdu'l-Baha further elucidated in a talk he gave in Paris. He said, the diversity in the human family should be the cause of love and humanity, as it is in music where many different notes blend together in the making of a perfect chord. If you meet those of different race and color from yourself, do not mistrust them and withdraw yourself into your shell of conventionality, but rather be glad and show them kindness. Think of them as different colored roses growing in the beautiful garden of humanity, and rejoice to be among them. Likewise, when you meet those whose opinions differ from your own, do not turn away your face from them. All are seeking truth, and there are many roads leading thereunto. Truth has many aspects, but it remains always and forever one. Do not allow difference of opinion, of diversity, or of thought to separate you from your fellow man, or to be the cause of dispute, hatred, and strife in your hearts. Rather search diligently for the truth and make all men your friends. Every edifice is made of many different stones, yet each depends on the other, to such an extent that if one were displaced, the whole building will suffer. If one is faulty, the structure is imperfect. So in answer to the questions that were posed to us on a local level, I had also had some on a national, but I think I'm running out of time here. Anyway, so in the Baha'i community in the Treasure Valley, we've got quite a bit of diversity here already. We have African, Pacific Islander, and Hispanic, just to name a few of the more visible minorities. Culturally, we have those from Iran, British, Canadian, Central American, South American, Mexican, every educational and economic background, from many different religious backgrounds. There's a conscious outreach by the Baha'is into diverse communities by fostering activities in receptive neighborhoods. The most common activity is devotional gatherings, where we share prayers and writings from not only the Baha'i faith, but other religions as well. We encourage discussion of the various topics presented to broaden our individual and collective understanding of the teachings of God. This outreach results in a lot of learning and has its own challenges as well. The differences in cultures that may arise from newcomers to the United States has some interesting challenges that have been presented to us. And so we've had to work together to come to an understanding about these incompatibilities and try to, Some can be misunderstood and incompatible with our local customs, and for harmonious relations need some careful accompaniment of gently assist people to adapt to their new home and neighborhood environment. This is not just, it's not going to be just a problem that we have new cultures coming in, because they also have beautiful habits and cultural expressions that enrich us. We are much more open and friendly to approaches in our conversations and relating to other people. Both sides of this cause our community to grow and increases our love for humankind, and the increase in diversity itself changes the character of our community for the better. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Bolander, and I'm here representing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is such a blessing and such a privilege to be here amongst you all. And I'm so grateful for this beautiful organization, the Healing Our Future, for hosting this beautiful gathering in this beautiful location, and for creating this atmosphere where we can come together in such a beautiful way, in unity and friendship. When I was asked to speak on diversity in faith communities, I have to tell you, my heart went immediately to the beauty of this very moment. I imagine more people. But this moment of people in different backgrounds gathered side by side to learn, to reflect, and to grow together. Tonight already, I have met some beautiful people and heard their beautiful stories that I would have never met had I not been able to be here. Being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's a worldwide organization, church. And we span all over the world. So already our minds are thinking diverse. We have different nationalities, we have different people, we have men, we have women, we have everything in our church. It's beautiful. And I've had the opportunity to serve in our church in places like Guam, Colorado, Texas, beautiful Idaho. It's a wonderful place no matter where you go. I lived in Spain. My children have lived in the Baltics, in Gilbert, Arizona, in places like Paraguay and Mexico, taking Christ and our beliefs of Christianity to people all over the world. How diverse is that? Many members of the church choose to leave their loved ones, their plans, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, and set aside their dreams for 2 years. It's crazy, I know, but why do they do it? For the same reason that I was speaking to some of you all who have served in different places, because you want that unity, that beautiful camaraderie that we can see in humanity. We have an amazing tool at our disposal here in Boise and across the world now. It's called Just Serve. And many of the people in our community use this tool. You can put, I need help in my church, in my organization. I need your help. And as a community, we all come together and we help. We help can food. We help in orchards. We help make birthday bags for children who don't have birthdays. We do greeting cards for people who have lost families in tragic accidents. And this has nothing to do with just one religion. It has to do with everybody coming together as a community, serving shoulder to shoulder, diverse. I personally work with a group of people here in Boise that are Spanish speakers. We have a Swahili congregation that meets over in the Bogus Basin building over by Simplot Hill. You guys have already, if you've lived here long enough, you've gone down Simplot Hill. We also have a Portuguese congregation. Why do we do this? Why do we have congregations for people with different languages? Because isn't it beautiful to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ or the gospel of Buddha or the gospel of Muhammad in your own language, where it touches your heart deeply? Because we are diverse, and we do need to learn where it touches us and how it touches us. Well, these experiences have taught me something that our scriptures have said: all are alike unto God. God's love isn't limited by borders. It isn't limited by languages or by beliefs. He sees each of us as his precious children. We have more members living outside of the United States than in the United States. And that gives us an open mind and an openness, and our doors are open to everybody, visitors, all alike. I've seen that we are all alike unto God in my everyday life. While I'm serving in the Spanish ward, the Spanish congregation, I'm the leader of the women's organization, the largest women's organization in the whole world. And it spans all over the place. If you went to church here in Boise this Sunday and then talked to your friend that went to church in Paraguay, Asunción, they would be learning the same lesson. And it's beautiful. But in my organization, I work with people from 19 different regions that are Spanish-speaking, from Central America all the way to the tip of Argentina and Spain. These people come to our congregation off of Cassia Street, and they bring diversity in a way that I didn't even know Spanish people could be diverse. It is incredible. One language seems so different. It's Spanish. We're all speaking Spanish, yet what you're saying is a new word that I've never heard, and the way I say it might offend your grandma, because in one place it's not bad, and in one place it is. And while you call a kitty cat can be very offensive to somebody in a different place. But the beautiful thing is that we come together. We teach them English. Why? So they can become better people. So that they can become and see and visualize and obtain the dream that they came here to obtain. We help them get on their feet. We help them become self-reliant, and we teach them to serve. Because when we serve others, we are better people. We are better humans. And our love grows like the Grinch, right? When he learned to serve, perfect timing for Christmas, right? His heart grew 3 sizes because he learned to serve. What a beautiful thing it is to be able to be part of something so great that's beyond all of us, where we can help, unify, and teach each other. I learned that a smile, a listening ear, and an outstretched hand will overcome almost any barrier. When we first started this, I was kind of scared, actually, because I didn't know what to expect. But when I got here and I started speaking to all of you and getting to know you and seeing your beautiful smiles and learning from where you were from and what church and what group you covered, I felt great. And it reminded me of this little song that I learned in primary. Now, I come from a very crazy background. My mom was Seventh-day Adventist. My dad was Catholic. My brothers and sisters, I have a born-again Christian, and I have a Christian, Jewish, and I have a Baptist. I say amen out loud because the Baptist in me comes out all the time, and people in my congregation kind of laugh at me. But there's a song that the little children sing and talk about diversity. It says, I know you and you know me. We are different as the sun and the sea. I know you and you know me. And that's the way it is supposed to be. I help you and you help me. We learn from problems and we're starting to see. I help you and you help me. And that is the way it is supposed to be. I love you and you love me. We reach together for the best that we can be. I love you and you love me, and that is the way it is supposed to be. And that's why we're here tonight. We are here tonight so that we can be the best that we can be. From a young age, when they learned this song at 18 months, to 103. Hopefully I live to be that long, but the rate I'm going, probably not. But I know that love and love of humanity and love of each other will break all bonds, will break all walls, and will tear down all diversity that is harmful. We can love each other. We can learn to serve each other because we serve from in here. And our peace comes from in here. And it spreads to our families, and it spreads to our communities. And we can live in a place where we can all be together. And then that'll be like heaven, right? Thank you for this time. I really appreciate having had this opportunity to share my thoughts with you.
Forgive me, you don't all know your own strength. You have sent my blood pressure through the roof. I'm Andrew. I'm here from Congregation Ahaveth Beth Israel. It's been my spiritual home for 10 years now. And as a microcosm of an international diaspora, the Cabby community is, by definition, diverse. We're Reform affiliated, but we come from Orthodox, conservative, and other movement backgrounds as well. We're largely Ashkenaz, but we've worked hard to be inclusive and sensitive to Sephardic and Mizrahi traditions. We're born Jews alongside Jews by choice. Diversity encompasses the broad spectra of individual beliefs, observance level, and Jewish literacy. And of course, diversity is a term that reflects each person's unique social position in Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionality framework. Over the years, I've collected a few concepts that I think reinforce my duty toward Jewish diversity. There are an impossible many to choose from, but I hope I can faithfully share two with you before answering the questions that were provided by our gracious hosts. First, B'Tselem Elohim, or fully, Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam b'tzelmo b'tselem Elohim. And God created humankind in the divine image, creating it in the image of God. That is, no matter their size, color, shape, or ability, every human being is equally and uniquely made in the template of the divine, even the ones that drive you crazy. So, it's impossible. It is a non-starter to elevate or diminish an individual or group based on who or what they are. To me, that suggests that we represent sacred community from the outside in. A second concept, Hineni. When God calls down to Moses, or Moshe, directly by his name, Moses answers, "Here I am." Hineni. Unguarded, open, sincere. To quote the Rabbi Nina Beth Cardin, Hineni is a response of sacred and undiluted presence, a response in which the self sheds all reservations, which expands the boundaries of self, indicating a readiness to receive and respond to whatever experience is about to unfold. It is brave, and it is humble. In my eyes, true diversity is impossible without a spirit of Hineni in meeting the other, and represents sacred community from the inside out. Now those questions. The key thing I've done to promote diversity in my faith community is to consistently show up as myself. Radical vulnerability. After all, community only happens where you keep showing up. And this has meant being open and honest about who I am, some of which has only recently entered the national lexicon, like being transgender or queer or in a non-traditional relationship. It's also meant showing up as things that are well known but may remain less understood, like being autistic, an abuse survivor, or an addict. I'm grateful to say that I'm in recovery for those last two things. I'm also grateful to say that I can navigate my Jewish values through all of them. I share this with you not to shock you or as a passport to my trauma, but because I believe that diversity and inclusion are not just high-minded concepts. They are sometimes alien. They are sometimes gritty. Sometimes, even with pure intention and utmost compassion in our hearts, embracing our diverse neighbors will leave a bad taste behind, or a lingering unanswered question. Embracing diversity demands that we lean into vulnerability and tolerate ambiguity. I have experienced life-changing patience and grace from a faith community that embraces diversity, and I work to pay it forward by continuing to show up as my best self as often as I can. For me, this has included consulting on inclusive ritual practices and serving on the board of trustees, adding my voice to both the very mundane and mission-critical discussions and votes. And frankly, my proudest moments there have not even involved my ideas, but have been affirmations of the brilliant contributions of others, such as the children of our Jewish community school, who submitted recommendations to the board to place new disability placards around our campus. Finally, the way I see that my efforts have paid off are evidenced in the trust and the confidence of my co-religionists, my friends and peers. I've been approached in my role as a social worker for their mental health questions and concerns, and I've also been utilized as a resource for families with trans children. I've been entrusted with the close-held pains and the hopes of trans and queer individuals and their loved ones, and of people in recovery from mental illness and addiction. I've been invited to events like this to share space and ideas. But the best way I've seen my efforts in the interest of diversity pay off has been in the small, sustained changes in the habits of the people who have learned to live in community. How's that for commas? With me, each other, and their neighbors. After all, in the words of Cornel West, justice is love made public. And in the words of Torah, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice, we must pursue. Thank you very much for hearing me tonight.
Ordinarily, I would appreciate speaking first to get things over with and to be able to pay full attention to other speakers on the program. But tonight, I am grateful that Debbie assigned me to speak last, because the world is a hard place to live in right now. And I have been lifted up by the words of each of my fellow speakers, and I thank you for the words of love and inclusion that you shared. My name is Ann Palma. I speak as an ordained minister in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. 2 points on that. We are a Christian church in America, not of America. We repudiate and renounce as idolatry and sin the notion of Christian nationalism, or that church and state should be intertwined in an unholy way. Also, a note on that word evangelical. My faith tradition has claimed that for the last 500 years, and in its original Greek, it simply means bearer of good news. It does not mean affiliation with any particular political movement, as the word has morphed in recent decades. I want to pause for just a moment and see if I can make eye contact with each of you, because as my colleague and new friend Andrew said, each of us are created in the image of God, and look, I see dozens of you. Behold the image of God in your neighbor. Wow, what diversity in the face of God. So the experiences I will share, or the stories I will share, are some from local congregations and some from our greater national church-wide organization. 119 years ago, a group of Swedish Americans, those who were immigrants and those who were first and second generation born in the United States, organized a Lutheran Christian worshiping community in Boise. 110 years ago, they built a Gothic revival-style sanctuary out of local rusticated sandstone on the corner of 7th and 4th Streets in downtown Boise. The faith was tied up with the language and with the culture and with the food and with the music and with the nationality. And so the language for worship was Swedish. Now, 107 years ago, the congregation took its first baby step toward inclusivity. It decided to hold all of its worship services in English. Because at that time, Lutheran Christians in the United States were nearly all Northern European. So at that time, diversity and inclusion meant welcoming immigrants from Norway and Finland and Denmark and Germany. And doesn't that sound silly looking back on it? Such a small thing that those Swedish Lutheran Christians who had arrived not so long ago from the old country would perhaps consider it a point of pride that they were opening the doors of their sanctuary to people who were different, who were other, who were Norwegians and Finns and Danes and Germans. That wasn't so long ago, friends. And looking back, it's hard to imagine that they could even tell each other apart. I mean, can you tell the difference between a Swede and a Finn nowadays? But they apparently could. And changing the language of worship from Swedish to English, the founders of that congregation on the corner of 7th and 4th in downtown Boise engaged in a holy act of hospitality toward people who were not exactly like them, as has Terry's congregation, right? We may see this as a small step, but I have no doubt in my mind that in their minds, it was a big step. Now, I have served several congregations, and I'm retired now, but I worship in a congregation called King of Glory that is near the corner of Maple Grove and Ustick. That congregation was founded about the time I was born, towards the end of the baby boom, at a time when church attendance in the United States was higher than at any point in U.S. history, before or since. Now, I haven't seen the original church directories, but I will bet you my pension check that every member of the congregation in those early days had one thing in common. All right, two things. They were Lutheran Christians, and they were white. There was not a lot of racial diversity in Boise in the 1960s, and I do not know how that congregation might have welcomed a black family that wandered through their doors. I suspect that not all arms would have been fully open. I don't know about the past, but I do know that for several decades, King of Glory Lutheran has recognized that an exclusively white congregation does not fully reflect God's glorious image. So for the past several decades, this congregation has undertaken a mission and a ministry called New Americans, in which it has followed the Lutheran Christian tradition of welcoming the stranger and specifically in this case, the refugee. The first family welcomed came from the Congo seeking refuge for the two parents and the 4 little girls, and not long after, a 5th little girl was born to this family. Now, the oldest 3 of those girls are young adults, having finished their higher education, and they are setting the world on fire with God's love. And the younger 2 are still in university. Refugee families from Africa continue to worship at King of Glory Lutheran Church, continue to bless us with their presence. Now, the conclusion of a Lutheran Christian worship service often includes words like this: "Go in peace, serve the Lord, thanks be to God." I am happy, although a little embarrassed, to share that these words are now spoken in English and in French, which is a native language for our African refugee families. They're spoken in English and French at the end of worship each Sunday. Our French accents are horrible. But we tell ourselves that our hearts are moving in the right direction, another small step. They're related to the larger church. Some Lutheran church bodies in the United States began ordaining women as ministers of word and sacrament, that is, pastors, in the 1970s. And since then, 3 women have served as pastor of this congregation. I was an intern there. In 2009, not without controversy, but we believe with the guidance of God, our denomination began ordaining to ministry openly gay and lesbian people to the ministry of word and sacrament. Over time, congregations themselves, local church bodies, have taken a further step to declare themselves as reconciling in Christ congregations. That is, congregations that welcome and affirm the gifts of LGBTQIA+ people, recognizing them as full partners in ministry and as beloved children of God. Our national organization has a presiding bishop, and our most recent presiding bishop served for 12 years, retiring just at the end of September. She was a woman. She is a woman, still. And for the ELCA, which bears the, I will say, shame of being, by every reliable survey, the whitest denomination in the United States, we joyfully welcomed our new national presiding bishop October 1st, and he is a black man, Bishop Yehiel Curry. We know that God's church is not perfect because we are not perfect. During worship each week, at the beginning, in humility and in conscious repudiation of the church's past complicity in genocide against the First Nations, we take another baby step by acknowledging the indigenous tribes that originally inhabited this land. Another small step. And finally, I will share with you that most Lutheran Christians would agree that without song, there is no worship. We use music to expand our consciousness of the expansiveness of God's grace. Our Swedish and Norwegian and German and Finnish and Danish forebears sang songs mostly written by white men from Northern Europe in the 17th and the 18th centuries. But our hymnals are changing, reflecting the diversity of the church universal. We sing songs and hymns from around the globe, hearing different rhythms, sometimes attempting different languages, to remind our hearts that God is God for all nations, for all people. And we believe that as we sing, we join our voices with angel choirs in praise to God.
All of our speakers had such wonderful words tonight. I want to share with you just a little tiny tidbit from each of them. It is by no means the best thing they said, but it was just something that caught my ear. Rajma said that wisdom in all the book, there is wisdom in all the books that we each believe in. Chi said that men and women are not separate, we're in it together. Joe said, think of them as different roses growing in the garden of humanity. Andrew, everyone was created in the image of God, even the ones who drive us crazy. And Anne, I have been lifted up by the words of each of my fellow speakers. Words of love. Thank you all so much for the beautiful words that you gave us this evening. And if you would please join me in a blessing. As I recognize the all-encompassing presence of Spirit unified throughout this most sacred space, and I bless everyone present as they leave this center and share the essence of who they really are with everyone they meet. Namaste. And now let's give a round of applause to all of our speakers. And if you would please come up front, line up front here so everyone can see your beautiful faces and Debbie can get some pictures. And I want to remind everyone that we have coffee, tea, water, soda, cider, and lots of goodies over here to eat.